While Ukraine is massively destroying Russian tanks in the 100 days since the invasion began, in Ukraine we do not see the so much praised Russian Armata tanks, but the old Soviet junk that the Russians are taking out of storage. A group of Soviet-built T-62M main battle tanks were recently spotted in an occupied area of Kherson Oblast. The units were equipped with metal grids over the turrets, apparently as some sort of improvised protection. That account marked a continued trend in the Russian military that was initially exposed late last month. In a May 23 report, the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine said a heavy loss of armored equipment in Ukraine battles had pushed the Russian command to start pulling T-62 tanks from storage and use them to equip reserve battalion tactical groups that were about to be sent across the border. The turret grid upgrade appears to be an attempt to protect these vehicles, built during the 1960s and 1970s, from modern anti-tank systems. However, Russian tank crews had earlier slammed such enhancements as ridiculous. In particular, once the grids were installed, the turret machine gun could not rotate properly, while the antenna would short-circuit when touching the grid, burning down the radio, and thus cutting off the crew's communication with the unit. Also, whenever a tank caught fire, the crew would be effectively blocked inside. Those lessons, however, were evidently not taken to heart. This growing Russian reliance on such aging technology contrasts sharply with its propaganda about the Russian armed forces supposedly being armed with high-end military equipment. On May 18, a news story appeared of a single company of Terminator tank support combat vehicles being deployed in the Severodonetsk direction, in Donbas. These vehicles, put into service in 2018, are supposed to operate as part of tank formations. However, this fielding of up to 10 Terminators likely had less to do with trying to significantly affect the operational situation on the battlefield and more with testing the technology in combat and creating a favorable picture for the media. Moreover, the Terminators already underwent similar testing in Syria back in 2017, where they provided support to the Syrian military's armored units in urban warfare against the Islamic State. No records exist that this vehicle was deployed in greater numbers into regular Russian armored units. 5 years on, they continue to be tested, this time, in Ukraine. A similar situation is developing with the latest Russian tanks, the modernized T-90M Prorov and T-14 Armata. A train carrying T-90M tanks was spotted in late February near the borders with Ukraine, but seemingly none of these units were actually used in battles until May. On May 10, footage emerged purportedly showing a T-90M tank being annihilated by Ukraine's territorial defense forces using a Carl Gustaf grenade launcher outside Stary Saltov, in Kharkov region. However, there is no evidence that Russia deployed any of its T-14s in Ukraine. The Armata was widely mocked for stalling during a rehearsal for the Victory Day parade in Moscow in 2015, when it was about to be showcased for the first time. Since then, Russia's newest tank model has continued to be a traditional part of these May 9 parades, but apparently still has never seen combat, raising doubts about its actual battlefield capabilities. Moreover, when a high-end asset, like the Prorov tank, is sent to the front line and is actually hit, this sends a negative signal to Russia's potential foreign arms customers. After all, the Russians have always tried to portray their weaponry as something truly unique and beyond competition. Therefore, Moscow is mostly using its older armored vehicles in Ukraine that it continues to field in large numbers. According to the International Institute for Strategic Studies, the Russian armed forces have about 2,800 T-72, T-80 and T-90 main battle tanks in active service, 13,000 other armored vehicles, as well as about 10,000 units of various types in storage, including T-64s, T-62s and T-55s. What must be taken into account is the peculiarities of equipment storage in Russia and the corruption component. After all, thousands of tanks and armored vehicles had been mothballed, while none of the military officials had expected any major war to come for years. This resulted in cases of both spare part theft and non-compliance with basic storage regulations. According to Ukraine's Defense Intelligence Service, Russia frequently fails to properly restore its armored vehicles taken from long-term storage facilities because their optics and electronics turn out to have been stolen. For instance, in Russia's 4th Tank Guard Division, out of 10 reactivated tanks, only one vehicle appeared to be combat ready. Today Russia is throwing into the war those models of main battle tanks and other armored vehicles that it has produced the most of, filling their weakest spots at the front with obsolete models taken from long-term storage. What does this imply? First, the Western sanctions are evidently already significantly affecting Russia's defense industry, including the ability to produce new types of equipment and repair or modernize existing models. Back in March, the Ukrainian General Staff said that due to the imposed sanctions and the lack of access to foreign-made components, the Uralvagonzavod Corporation and the Chelyabinsk tractor plant suspended their operations. Second, the available statistics on Russia's huge armored reserves raise the question of their actual condition and the share of vehicles that can be safely put back into service. But for now, Russia retains large numbers of hardware in stock that can be deployed on the front lines, forcing Ukraine to expend considerable effort and munitions to hit each such unit. Moreover, the obsolete T-62s spotted in Kherson region likely will not take part in intensive firefights. Rather, Russia may be concentrating them to cement its defensive positions in the occupied areas. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week, it's 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.